In a bygone era, within the thriving and dynamic kingdom of Nubia, resided a youthful princess named Nyala. As the cherished sole offspring of King Kwame, she was deeply adored by her father, a sovereign celebrated across the territories for his judicious rule, bravery in combat, and steadfast dedication to fairness. Under King Kwame's guidance, Nubia had blossomed. Its marketplaces teemed with traders from distant lands, the agricultural fields were verdant and bountiful, and its inhabitants held their ruler in high esteem. Yet, despite his many virtues, King Kwame possessed a significant failing, an intense overprotectiveness towards his daughter. The king had endured a profound sorrow years prior when Queen Zola, Nyala's mother, perished in a tragic mishap. From that day forward, he had become apprehensive of anything that might cause him to lose his daughter, the last remaining connection to his beloved queen. He kept her confined within the palace, secluded behind its imposing walls and continuously monitored by guards. His love for her was fierce, but it had become akin to a confinement, and Nyala, vibrant and inherently inquisitive, began to feel ensnared. From her upper chamber casement, she often gazed with yearning at the settlement below, where the villagers lived their unpretentious yet colorful existences. She observed the children scampering and playing in the meadows, the women gathering at the communal water source, and the men returning from their work in the fields. She witnessed their moments of joy, sorrow, and their perseverance through daily chores, and she longed to be amidst them, to hear their narratives and grasp their trials. One twilight, following another day spent within the palace precincts, Nyala found herself seated in the grand banqueting hall with her father. The chamber was illuminated by the flickering glow of burning torches, and a lavish feast was spread before them. Roasted lamb, aromatic rice, sweet dates, and pastries drizzled with honey. However, Nyala felt little inclination to eat. She observed her father conversing with his advisors, his brow furrowed in contemplation. She resolved to make her appeal once more. "Father," she began softly, "I have been contemplating." King Kwame turned towards her, his stern expression softening as he beheld his daughter. "What is it, my dear?" "I would like to visit the village," Nyala continued, her voice steady yet forthright. "Just for a single day, to witness how our populace lives. I wish to understand them more deeply." King Kwame sighed, setting down his drinking vessel. "Nyala, we have discussed this on numerous occasions," he stated firmly. "The world beyond these ramparts is perilous. You are my sole offspring, my very heart. I cannot jeopardize losing you as I lost your mother." "But father," Nyala persisted, her dark eyes filled with resolve, "how can I govern effectively if I do not truly know my people? How can I comprehend their necessities if I never witness their daily existence?" The king's countenance softened, but his tone remained unwavering. "You can acquire all the knowledge you require from here, Nyala. The people are content and prosperous. You are secure within the palace, which is where you belong." Nyala assented, but her spirit was weighed down by disappointment and a profound yearning. That night, as she lay in her expansive draped bed, listening to the distant sounds emanating from the village outside, she reached a definitive conclusion. If her father would not permit her to experience the world, she would have to devise a means herself. The subsequent dawn, while her personal attendant was absent, Nyala stealthily entered the servants' quarters and procured a simple, unadorned tunic and a well-worn cloak. She rubbed soot from the hearth onto her face and limbs to obscure her fair complexion. Taking a keen blade and drawing a deep breath, she severed her long, flowing tresses, watching the thick, dark strands descend to the flagstones. She regarded her reflection in the fractured mirror. She was no longer Princess Nyala, the sheltered daughter of King Kwame. She was now simply Imani, an ordinary maiden with no particular standing. That evening, when the palace lay silent and the sentinels were at their posts, Nyala navigated the clandestine passages she had discovered during her childhood. She knew the palace intimately and moved noiselessly through the dimly lit corridors, her heart pounding in her chest, a mixture of apprehension and excitement coursing through her veins. She reached the rear egress, where a solitary guard maintained vigil. Awaiting his averted gaze, she darted past him into the cool nocturnal air, her heart accelerating with the elation of liberation. The village Sankofa was nestled at the base of the elevation upon which the palace was situated. As Nyala descended the meandering trail, the world around her seemed to awaken in a manner she had never before encountered. The fragrance of blooming jasmine permeated her senses, mingling with the earthy aroma of freshly tilled ground. She could faintly discern the sounds of mirth, melody, and conversation ascending from the village plaza, where the inhabitants gathered to commemorate the conclusion of the day's toil. Her spirit soared with anticipation, and she quickened her pace, eager to immerse herself in this unfamiliar milieu. The marketplace remained vibrant, even at this late hour. Lanterns hung from poles, casting a warm, golden radiance over the colorful stalls lining the thoroughfares. Merchants called out their wares: fresh catches from the river, ripe mangoes in woven containers, and skillfully crafted pottery. Children darted about, engaged in games, their laughter echoing through the air. The scent of roasting meat and spices caused Nyala's stomach to rumble, and she realized she had consumed nothing since departing the palace. She meandered through the market, absorbing the sights and sounds encompassing her. For the first time in her existence, she felt genuinely alive. She could hear the chime of coins, the murmur of voices, the braying of pack animals, and the soft hum of conversations. She noticed the fatigue in the eyes of the villagers, the lines etched into their faces by years of demanding labor. She witnessed the joy in the children's laughter and the concern in their parents' gazes. She felt a profound bond with these people, her people, whom she had never truly known. However, as the hours elapsed, Nyala began to comprehend that she possessed no currency, no sustenance, and nowhere to rest. She understood that she needed to secure employment swiftly if she were to endure in this novel environment. She approached a woman vending fruit at a stall, an elderly vendor with compassionate eyes, but a weary demeanor. "Pardon me, ma'am," Nyala inquired, endeavoring to sound humble and meek. "Do you have any tasks for me? I am capable of doing anything. Carrying water, sweeping floors, whatever is required." The woman regarded her with skepticism, noting the softness of Nyala's hands. "You do not appear accustomed to much arduous work," she commented. Nyala promptly concealed her hands behind her back. "I am stronger than I appear," she insisted. "Please, I will work for any wage, just enough to sustain myself." The woman examined her for a moment, then shook her head. "I regret, child, I have no work for you. Seek out Ndala's dwelling down the thoroughfare. She is perpetually in need of assistance." Nyala expressed her gratitude and proceeded towards the modest, humble dwelling at the periphery of the village. She tapped on the door, and after a brief interval, an aged woman opened it, her face etched with the passage of time, but her eyes keen and perceptive. "Yes?" the woman inquired, her voice rough but not unkind. "Good evening, ma'am," Nyala responded, inclining her head. "My name is Imani. I am seeking employment. The fruit seller suggested you might require some aid." The aged woman, Ndala, appraised Nyala from head to foot. "I could utilize some assistance," she conceded finally, "but I cannot offer substantial payment." "I require but little," Nyala countered, "merely enough to subsist." Ndala nodded and stepped aside. "Very well, enter. Commence by cleaning the floor." Nyala took the broom and began to sweep, experiencing a sense of fulfillment she had never encountered in the palace. She labored diligently, resolved to prove her worth. The work proved more demanding than she had anticipated. Her arms ached, and her back was weary, but she refused to complain. Ndala observed her closely, nodding approvingly at her endeavors. As the days unfolded, Ndala's trust in Nyala deepened, and she assigned her greater responsibilities, drawing water from the river, repairing garments, and preparing simple meals. Nyala acquired skills rapidly, and her hands became rough and callous from the toil. She discovered she genuinely enjoyed the labor, the sense of accomplishment accompanying each finished task. She also began to learn about the lives of the villagers, their struggles, and their histories. One morning, Nyala awoke early to the calls of roosters crowing and the clatter of tools in the distance. She quickly cleansed her face with the frigid water from the basin and wrapped a scarf around her head to prevent her hair from obstructing her vision. Ndala was already awake, tending the flames in the hearth, preparing to bake loaves. "Imani, child," Ndala called out, "would you fetch some water from the well? The pail is beside the entrance." "Certainly, Ndala," Nyala replied, retrieving the wooden bucket and proceeding outdoors. The air was crisp and cool, and a thin mist clung to the ground. As she made her way towards the communal well, she observed the villagers commencing their day, women bearing baskets on their heads, men readying their implements for work, and children running barefoot in the earth. Nyala reached the well and began to draw water, her arms straining with the exertion. As she walked, a young smithy named Jomo approached. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with a genial smile and a lively sparkle in his eye. He had noticed the newcomer in the village and was curious about her. "Good morning," Jomo greeted her. "I have seen you about. You are new here, are you not?" Nyala nodded, feeling a tremor in her chest. "Yes, I am Imani. I arrived here seeking employment." Jomo smiled. "And have you found it?" Nyala laughed softly. "Oh, I have found ample work, but little remuneration." Jomo chuckled. "That is the way of life in this village. But you seem distinct from the others. There is something about you." Nyala felt a pang of apprehension. "I am merely a simple girl," she said quickly, attempting to make a living. Jomo nodded, still smiling. "Well, it is good to have you here, Imani. Should you ever require assistance, come and find me. I am usually nearby." Over the subsequent weeks, Nyala and Jomo became closer. He would often seek pretexts to visit Ndala's home, bringing gifts of freshly baked bread or offering to assist with repairs. They would converse for hours by the river, sharing anecdotes and aspirations. Jomo spoke of his ambition to fashion objects of beauty with his hands, to create the finest swords and instruments in the kingdom. Nyala found herself drawn to his inherent kindness and fervor. One afternoon, as they were seated by the river, Jomo turned to her with a serious expression. "Imani, why did you come to this village?" he inquired. "You do not speak much about your past." Nyala hesitated, selecting her words with care. "I desired to witness the world," she said finally. "I wanted to comprehend what it truly signifies to live like everyone else, to experience the feeling of struggle, of hope, of aspiration." Jomo nodded, impressed by her sincerity. "That is a noble motivation. Many of us are born here and never have the opportunity to see beyond the surrounding hills. You are courageous to venture here alone." Nyala smiled, feeling a warmth within her chest. "Thank you, Jomo," she said softly. "But I am not as brave as you believe." As time progressed, Nyala's presence in the village began to exert a beneficial influence. She continued to assist the villagers in minor but impactful ways, sharing her meager earnings or orchestrating discreet gatherings where the inhabitants could voice their grievances and encouraging them to assert themselves. She became recognized for her empathy and discernment, and many began to solicit her counsel. However, not everyone was pleased by Nyala's influence. The local tax collector, a man named Maliki, was known for his cruelty and avarice. He had observed that the villagers were becoming bolder, speaking out against the levies and even declining to pay. He suspected that someone was inciting them, fomenting unrest, and his gaze had fallen upon the newcomer, Imani. One day, Maliki arrived at Ndala's dwelling under the pretense of verifying her tax payments. He discovered Nyala there, cleaning the floor. "You there, girl," Maliki barked. "What is your designation?" Nyala looked up, her heart pounding. "Imani," she responded calmly. Maliki eyed her suspiciously. "From where do you hail, Imani? You do not seem to belong here." Nyala met his gaze steadily. "I am from a village distant from here," she said. "I came here seeking employment." Maliki frowned, unconvinced. "Well, you would be wise to conduct yourself cautiously, girl. There are regulations in this village, and I do not tolerate troublemakers." Nyala nodded, maintaining a neutral expression. "I am no agitator, sir. I am simply endeavoring to earn an honest livelihood." Maliki grunted and departed, but Nyala could sense his scrutiny as he walked away. She knew she needed to exercise greater caution, but she also felt a renewed sense of resolve. She could not forsake the villagers now. They required her assistance. Then one day, a royal decree arrived from the palace. King Kwame announced that a grand feast would be held to commemorate the anniversary of his reign. All the villagers were invited to attend, and a contest would be organized to identify the most skilled storyteller in the kingdom. The victor would be granted a substantial reward and the monarch's favor. The village buzzed with excitement, but Nyala perceived it as an opportunity. She recognized this was her chance to communicate directly with her father and make him comprehend the predicament of his people. She would further conceal her identity, participate in the contest, and recount a tale that would compel him to see. Jomo noticed her enthusiasm and inquired, "Are you planning to participate in the contest, Imani?" Nyala nodded, her eyes gleaming with determination. "Yes, I possess a story to share, one that must be heard." Jomo smiled, his eyes filled with admiration. "I am certain it will be a magnificent story. I shall be there to offer my encouragement." On the day of the grand banquet, Nyala attired herself in an even simpler garment, wrapping herself in a shawl to obscure her countenance. She made her way to the palace alongside the other villagers, experiencing a mixture of apprehension and resolve. The grand chamber was filled with individuals, and the king occupied his throne, flanked by nobles and retainers. The competition commenced with several storytellers taking the stage to narrate their accounts of heroism, affection, and adventure. Finally, it was Nyala's turn. She stepped onto the platform, her heart thrumming in her chest. She commenced speaking, her voice steady and clear. "My narrative concerns a sovereign," she began, "a monarch who was wise and potent, but who had forgotten his subjects. He resided in a magnificent palace, surrounded by abundance and luxury, while his populace toiled and suffered. He hosted lavish feasts and festivities, but his people had little to eat. He was oblivious to their pain, deaf to their lamentations." As Nyala continued her narration, a hush descended upon the chamber. Everyone listened intently, including King Kwame. Her words were audacious and piercing, portraying a ruler who had lost connection with his people, who had allowed his pride and fear to cloud his judgment. "But," she continued, "there resided a princess in this kingdom, a young woman who discerned the truth. She disguised herself as a commoner and ventured into the village to reside among the people. She witnessed their distress, felt their suffering, and resolved to act. She understood that a true ruler must perceive with their own vision, listen with their own ears, and govern with their heart." King Kwame's eyes narrowed, and he leaned forward in his seat. There was something familiar about this storyteller, something in her voice that stirred his memory, yet he could not identify it. And so, Nyala concluded, this princess approached her father, the king, and implored him to transform, to listen, to care. She risked everything for her people, for she knew that a kingdom is not constituted of fortifications and treasures, but of the hearts and souls of its inhabitants. There was a pause, a moment of profound silence, and then the hall erupted in applause. The king, still absorbed in thought, raised his hand for quiet. "Who are you, girl?" he demanded, his voice commanding. "Step forward and reveal yourself." Nyala hesitated, then slowly lowered her shawl, uncovering her face. A collective gasp rippled through the multitude, and King Kwame's eyes widened in astonishment. "Nyala," he exclaimed, "my daughter, what are you doing here?" Nyala stepped forward, her head held high. "Father, I was compelled to make you understand. I had to reveal the truth about our people. They are enduring hardship, and they require a ruler who comprehends them, who cares for them." King Kwame remained silent for an extended period, his face reflecting a complex mix of anger, shock, and dawning realization. Finally, he nodded slowly. "You have demonstrated remarkable courage, my daughter," he said softly, "and you have spoken the undeniable truth. I now perceive what I have failed to see for so long." He turned to the assembly. "Henceforth, I vow to be a more benevolent ruler, to heed my people, and to attend to their needs. The taxes will be diminished, and I shall endeavor to bring prosperity to all." The hall erupted in jubilant cheers, and Nyala felt a wave of relief and happiness wash over her. She had succeeded. She had made her father comprehend. Jomo, who had witnessed the entire sequence of events unfold, rushed forward to embrace her. "You are magnificent, Imani, or should I say Princess Nyala?" he whispered with a grin. Nyala laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I am both," she said, "and I am proud to be both." In the weeks that ensued, King Kwame fulfilled his promise. The taxes were reduced, and the people experienced a renewed sense of optimism and prosperity. Nyala continued to frequent the village, no longer as a domestic worker, but as a companion and a guiding figure. Her bond with Jomo strengthened, and in time, they became more than mere acquaintances, united by their mutual affection for their people and their aspiration for a just kingdom. And thus, the king's daughter, who assumed the guise of a servant, became a beloved figure within the kingdom, recognized not solely for her royal lineage, but for her bravery, humility, and the profound essence of leadership.